I read the mucusless healing system and I thought, wow, basically, so then I just started eating grapes for a while. It was just a wild time. The idea that things could be different than they were and we could change things and do things.
The big question is this: how do we take a seemingly ordinary world and make it beyond extraordinary? In yoga, there is so much more than meets the eye, and it's not just the things we do on our yoga mats that make the biggest difference. That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answer. My name is Austin Bitsis, and welcome to Life as a Secret Yogi. Everyone, welcome to the Life as a Secret Yogi podcast. I'm your host, Austin Bitsis, and today we got a special guest, Reverend Laksmi from Integral Yoga is how we know each other. And welcome to the show. I'm super grateful to have you on.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be on.
In terms of just like everybody who doesn't know yourself, just to kind of give a brief introduction, people might be familiar with some of your work with Integral Yoga, but just to kind of give you a brief introduction, I mean, you've over the last 40 years have been involved in almost like every type of healing arts. And just to list a few of your specialties, you're a yoga teacher, you're a gong master, you're a Reiki master, you're an energy worker specializing in balancing, you're an astrologer, and an integral yoga minister. So you work through mostly the Integral Yoga Institute, which I'm familiar with, and that's how I know of you from taking classes there in New York City, which is an amazing institute. If anyone's travels in New York City or living in New York City, definitely check it out. I know you guys are offering tons of classes virtually as well during all this like COVID time, and it's a community that really exists around the world. Is that right?
It does exist around the world. It does. Australia, all over Europe. Yes, South America.
Awesome. Yeah. And so it's an awesome place, and it's really like a community oriented, which kind of drew me into it with one of my friends, Matteo Valdivieso, which you know very well. And he kind of got me started in going to Integral when I was working in the city. And I mean, went to the New Year's Eve event last year, and that was really cool. You did that gong bath, and it was a really cool experience. And I really kind of emphasis on this community because I think in a lot of other yoga studios, that's maybe the one piece that's missing, and that's the one piece that I at least personally, and I know a lot of other people really kind of thrive in, and it's a really kind of collective energy, which is really cool.
It's true. Community means a lot. And we're community-based, non-for-profit, community-based. We call it a sangha.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's people of like minds. And it's wonderful to have those people. I can't tell you, like the years that I've been there, if I'm home not feeling well, somebody will come and bring me food. I mean, it's just a brilliant place. We just look out for each other, take care of each other. And then if people can't afford something, we offer things. We offer it to them in a way that works for them.
Yeah, I think it's an awesome community, and I would love to get back to it and start taking classes again in New York City once things resume. Yeah. And you guys are offering so much virtually. But back to yourself, like Reverend Lakshmi, I introduced you a little bit for everyone who doesn't know you, but let's start off with a little bit about your story to finding yoga and ultimately becoming this reverend and this healer of many different arts and disciplines. So,
well, it was in the 60s that yoga was coming around. The Beatles brought the music with the sitar, and the gurus started coming to New York City. So that was very exciting. And there was all this new age talk. And when I was a young person, someone handed me a book on mucusless healing system. And they also gave me Ouspensky's Fourth Way. I think I was like 17 or something. And but I read the mucusless healing system, And I thought, wow, basically, so then I just started eating grapes for a while. It was just a wild time. Um, the idea that things could be different than they were, and we could change things and do things. And I found yoga it was Richard Hittleman, and it was a television show, and it was at 7 o'clock in the morning, and he taught coast to coast, different times. And every morning I would do this yoga with Richard Hittleman. And then I found out years later that he was a disciple of Ramana Maharshi. I was at his mountain in India, his ashram. It was beautiful. So I had no idea at the time that that was his guru. So it wasn't just an asana practice. It was a full practice that he was giving. And of course, at the time, there were no props. You just, I don't know, I don't think I used anything. It was just on the floor or on the rug or something. It was really beautiful. So every morning I did this. And at some point, I was eating at a restaurant a lot on 6th Street, the Cauldron. It was a macrobiotic restaurant in the East Village. And my friend worked there, and I said, I need a yoga teacher. And so everyone came there. All of Rajneesh people came there, what you're talking about. Everyone came there. It was also kosher, so you had Hasidics coming there. You had the East Village junkies getting a cheap bowl of rice. You had all the yogis, all the psychics. It was such a fantastic place. So my friend said, she introduced me to a couple of people who took Swami Bua's class. And Swami Bua was from the Divine Life Society, which is the same lineage as the lineage I'm involved in now, Shivananda, Master Shivananda. So I went to class, and it was really like intense, and it was this, I guess he had long white hair, white beard, and he was little, and he might have been in his 70s at the time, and he could do things. And I was in my 20s, and I thought, if I did yoga my whole life, I will never be able to do what this guy is doing in his 70s. It was just amazing, and it was a very intense class. We used bath mats because it had that rubber bottom and it was soft on top.
Wow.
And there was it wasn't popular really, so there was a very interesting collection of people there. It was just perfect for someone who wants to be on the fringe, who feels attracted to the fringe, because that's what it basically was. And then that group of people, we would go around and listen to different gurus talk, because they were just all over the city. um, and I was with him every day for 5 years, and I became one of his teachers. And the way you became a teacher was that he was going to teach in South America, and he would go, you, and you teach the class. And
Hmm.
that was it. You were a teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and the reason I left is I got hit by a car, and things got a little bit like crazy in my life, and I kept injuring myself, and um, I probably would have handled it differently now than I did then, but I didn't, I wasn't, I just kept expecting to do what I had done
Hmm.
and not modify what I was doing.
Yeah.
And
And
I was very flexible, and I could do a lot of things. And eh, anyway, so I left that, and I got involved in other things, some not great things. I took a lot of acid when I was younger,
wow. Yeah.
a lot of that stuff. And I took enough, let's put it that way, enough to get me to where I need to be. I highly recommend it. Maybe you can edit that out.
No, I mean it's honest. Yeah.
um, yeah, maybe you can edit that out.
I mean, no, I think it's an honest thing, and there's a talk about Netflix again. There's a documentary that kind of speaks about it and kind of brings light to it, and there's a spiritual aspect of it too. If you're trying to search for a certain aspect, it's not something that I particularly have explored myself. I'm not completely opposed to it, but it's just taking anything with an open mind, and it's the way you kind of utilize it, and the way
Yeah,
you're not. I guess the word is like addicted to that. Like it's not a dependent. You're not
right. Not a
dependent on
crutch,
it.
you know.
Yeah,
But
it's a
you know,
supplement.
now this is a different era. You know, then it was very different. I was talking to someone about this then. You could trust what you were getting. You don't know where it came from, really,
Mm,
and who made it, and someone made it, some lab made it, you know,
yeah,
and it was all, you could trust it. You didn't, it's not now. It's not now.
yeah.
It's not now. It's not now. So it was then, and it was perfect for then. Um, And I agree with you. It's like I know some people now who do the ayahuasca so much, and I'm thinking, you know, I did it once. I only don't need to do it more, really. Someone wanted me to try it, I tried it.
Mhm.
Um, then I got into other things, you know, and I was always one of those people who thought, what is going on with this world? When I was a young person, like, there's more to this than meets the eye, and I wanted to know. And I always wanted to know what happened after death. That was something that always interested me. And so I started studying different things with psychics, astrology. People that I met were teaching me how to read palms or cards. I mean, I don't, numerology, I don't read palms or cards now. But I did spend a long time kind of studying that stuff.
Yeah.
And Theosophy, Madame Blavatsky, I was part of that group for a while, studying
Mhm.
with them, and I studied the Gita with them, and their whole take was Vedantic, and I enjoyed that a lot about what happens after death. So it really that gave me some answers that felt right to me. Um, I had one parent that was Jewish and one parent that was Catholic, and neither of them really cared too much about that. And I'm first generation in this country, so there's a lot that I was left like a little bit open, waiting for something, you know. And Vedanta was there. It was sort of that. That was something that sat well with me.
And in particular, you said provided you some answers. And what particular questions were you trying to answer? And then also during your 20s, before you had that accident with being hit by a car, what kept you coming back? Was it these answers that you were trying um, to answer, or was it the excitement of just the
Coming
times, the people
coming
coming
back
back?
to yoga.
Yeah, coming back to yoga in your practice.
Well, you know, we were a community, and at times, and the yoga was amazing, and you felt great.
Hmm.
And you know, you did this, it was a meditation, and you did all these movements in this meditation. You felt wonderful. And then we did spend time chanting and meditating, and he would talk about the Bhagavad Gita with us. And then there were times he would cook for all of us. It was just a brilliant, it was brilliant. How
Yeah.
could you want to go back for more? So that was easy.
Hmm.
That was easy. That was easy. I was always someone who needed some kind of strong physical movements when I was young. I had a lot of energy. That I mean, there were times that before that I was get up and run for a couple of miles, 3 miles in the morning, and then I would go stand up all day because I worked in a hair salon on 57th Street. So, I mean, I had all this energy, and then I would go to my yoga class, you know?
Yeah.
So, but the running and the yoga, I didn't do that together. But I always had to do something. I had to
Hmm.
always keep busy. So that kept me going. And I remember sitting in that class and feeling like this peace that I had never really experienced before, like from all the movement. It was so peaceful. I had
Hmm.
this feeling of peace. Of course, immediately after, I had this vision of someone bursting in the door with a machine gun and shooting us all because, I mean, yeah, I mean, I grew up in the Bronx and it was a little
Yeah.
rough. Not that rough though, but still that was the thing. And I was just trying to get into that peaceful, that was like so new, that
Yeah.
feeling, that like, wow, that peace, that, wow, it was so new. Um, and then the other questions, I wanted to know, like, what am I doing here? What is the purpose? What has meaning? What what? What happens after death? I mean, what the body? What happens? Is it just you have a body and it goes? Is there something more? Those are the questions I wanted answered.
Yeah. And in particular, we started talking about the last time we spoke about like different, you're starting different types of yoga with, and you mentioned that when you started studying the different types of yoga um, with your mentor, you mentioned that they all kind of led to the same thing, to the same place. And I'd like to talk a little bit more about this. And about like also how it kind of in the broader picture of like different disciplines. So yoga is a great discipline. That's the particular discipline I practice. However, there's other disciplines. May it be gong, like kind of like a like sound healing. May it be Reiki or energy work. And there's all these different disciplines which we do talk about on this show. However, it's focused around majority yoga. Can we talk about more about this? Because you practice a ton of healing arts, a ton of healing modalities.
I found that everything does lead to the same thing. It's really all about quieting the mind. So whether you get there from doing asana, from meditate, or you want to do everything that will help you to do that. So eating a certain way helps the mind be quiet. Um, Meditation, yoga helps. Sound healing is amazing. I mean, this idea that everything is vibration and that we are vibration and the body is vibration, the thoughts are vibration. So imagine everything that you think is a vibration, everything that you say is a vibration. And if you believe that that has some effect or has a profound effect, then you'll be more careful about what you're thinking and what you're saying. You'll begin to watch the mind more. I mean, because there is that happening. There is something called the witness that is there. We don't have our awareness there on the witness because we have our awareness on the physical body because we're identified here with this.
Mm-hmm.
But when we do, let's say meditate or do sound healing or some kind of practice where we shift our awareness to this witness and we can begin to watch this whole thing as if it's a Netflix story, and we're not so involved and we're not identified with it, things really begin to change. And I do want to say one of the things I always talk about in the Gong Bath is the importance of watching the thoughts. We are, in fact, like a big gong or a big singing bowl. And depending on what tone comes out of us, is contingent on our thoughts, our beliefs, what we speak. And the science, I mean, Vedanta has known this. These practices, these yogis from thousands of years ago, they knew this. And it was hard for the Western mind to go, yeah, okay. But now we're in this whole other place where science, quantum physics is telling us that exactly. These biologists and all these people are telling us that our beliefs inform the brain, and the brain then informs the body by secreting certain enzymes, chemicals, whatever. So the idea that also if we move our body in a certain way, certain chemicals or enzymes are released, even smiling, like a big smile, the brain releases different chemicals than when you frown. When you become aware of that's a fact, that's truth, that's a fact, you can begin to understand your life differently and change differently, because it makes a difference. It's like people who hate people don't realize that they're taking the poison. They have the hate in them. That's the poison. The heart's not open. And I think all illness comes from, I mean, maybe some of it's genetic, but that too might come down from different ways of beliefs and thinking and behaving.
Mm-hmm. And it's just something off what you just said and we were speaking about was this law of attraction. And we spoke about it last time we spoke. And you mentioned kind of if you go about life with like in terms of like illness and you come down with an illness, that could be possibly something around hate. And this people are really killing themselves and with this hate and with their particular thoughts, and it attracts the physicality. So what I'm basically trying to say is the psychological thoughts that we are presenting can affect us in physical ways.
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
mm-hmm.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. I'm, basically saying that. And I say that every time I do a gong bath. Now, we have these thoughts over and over again. And even the way we speak to our body, and even when I teach a yoga class, instead of like you find that your body is stiff in a certain place and you go, darn it, and you're not happy about it, and you're not sending that part of your body a good energy. Mm-hmm. But why don't you instead say, oh, that part needs love, and send it some extra loving thoughts, your breath with love in it. And to that part of the body, it's going to be a whole other effect. The body will be affected differently. Yes, absolutely. What we think and what we attract. If you walk around very angry, you're more likely to get punched by a stranger on the street. Yeah. That's, and like people go, well, why did that happen to me? Well, I mean, they say in the Yoga Sutras, if you're absolutely practicing ahimsa, which is nonviolence, that no violence will happen to you. Absolutely none. Like a lion won't attack you if you're completely, purely nonviolent. Now, I don't know who is. Who that person is. I'm sure there is someone like that, and has been for them to even write about it. But yeah, and so we have these thoughts over and over again, and then they go into different parts of the body, and then the body gets a little stiff, and then we believe we can't move the arm past a certain way. Oh, that's it, you're finished with you just accept things like that. I mean, I think the way to heal is to notice that the mind, I was very sick in my late 40s. I had Cushing's disease, and it was due to a lot of stress. Oh my God, there was so much stress in my life for a long time. And then the body just gave out. And Cushing's disease is when the adrenal glands secrete too much cortisol. The cortisol is catabolic, it breaks the body down, causes this premature aging. And while it was going on, you feel like you're having a nervous breakdown every minute of the day. But at some point it was diagnosed, and they gave me this little pill that stopped the cortisol. that was a temporary solution, and I was able to then do something for myself, and I realized that I was sick because my mind was sick. I was going through a whole lot of stuff, accepting things from childhood that I didn't want to really, you spend your whole life, mad at one parent and not the other, and then you get it wrong, and there's just all this stuff, and it was just all this stuff I needed to accept and forgive. And when I realized my mind was sick, I really started getting better. I started doing mantras, um, mantra japa, with the mala,
Yeah.
with, with the mala. Um, and I have to say that I had a healing from that because I was real. I mean, I'm talking seizures, hospitals, broken nose from falling, and we don't know, they didn't know why. All sorts of things were going on, they didn't know why until they diagnosed it, and so that was the whole thing.
Hmm.
That was the whole thing. I realized my mind was sick, and I got set on that healing. I did read the entire Course in Miracles. Um, I had done the lessons in the 80s.
Hmm.
There's 365 lessons, which are very good because the lessons get you to observe the mind. The lessons make you see what's going on. And I remember being in the 80s thinking, I'm going to get rid of these negative thoughts. That was a 24/7 job.
Yeah.
It was like amazing. Everything, this is like the hardest work I've ever done, you know? And so that again, I just read the whole book at that point. Um, so
And
this,
what book was this that
the
you
Course in
mentioned?
Miracles,
Can you repeat that one more time?
Course in Miracles.
Course in Miracles. Okay, cool. Yeah, definitely. Everyone try to check that out.
It's a big fat book, but you can check out part of the book is the lessons.
Got it. Okay.
And they're free online. You can get them free online. So a lesson a day. And you think, what am I doing? And then at some point you realize that that lesson brought you to this place and oh wow.
Yeah.
So it was very helpful for me. Um, but the other thing is that when you do healing work and or when you play the gong for someone or when you teach a class, you can't you have to be in a place that you're not fettered with these negative thoughts.
Hmm.
The only what makes it good, what makes it great for everyone around you is that you're coming from a place of love, and you have to be able to find that place within you, where you're offering this to someone with love, and you're not worried about like some nonsense.
Yeah. No, definitely. And a lot of your work is considered healing work, and one has to have the intent of being this instrument of divine um, being. Like this is something that you mentioned before, and really being in the moment. And this is what you're speaking about right now. So, in order to say, like, for everybody listening, I think where this comes into and the lesson it comes into, in order for myself to teach yoga, in order for you to teach yoga or a gong bath or do a Reiki healing, you have to be this healer of the divine. You have to be in this moment. You have to clear your thoughts and be an observer of your thoughts. Was that something you would agree with or add upon? Or
Like that. Well, I mean, I don't feel that I'm a healer. I feel that healing happens through me,
Mhm.
and that I'm an instrument. And always when we do usually a 6 o'clock Reiki circle,
Mhm.
since this whole thing has happened with COVID. So we do like a Zoom thing, and I go take people through a Reiki meditation. Then we send Reiki to the world and to a list. I have lists of people, and they receive the Reiki. Um, my intent is always to be an instrument.
Mhm.
It's like when I was younger, it's the Saint Francis prayer. you
Yeah.
know, and now it's there's supreme divinity, there's the self, which is supreme divinity, you know, which is unaffected and ongoing and um, existence, knowledge, bliss, and I want to be an instrument of that. And or I'll look at my guru, Satchidananda, Swami Satchidananda, and I just want to be absorbed into him and be a guru and have be an instrument of that.
Yeah. In terms of tips for everybody listening right now, they're coming from this as most people listening to this, I would say, are more of the students. Not there's some teachers, but they're more of the student. They practice these disciplines, mostly yoga, as a tool to make their world extraordinary, to kind of give them these quote unquote superpowers, as we call it, by embodying your secret yogi, taking our seemingly ordinary world and really making it extraordinary. What tips would you have for them in their own practice?
Well, I think the world is extraordinary and every being is extraordinary.
Mm,
And it's all perception. So if somebody's bored and sees the world as ordinary, they're just not seeing correctly. And if we realize we're not seeing correctly, then we could begin to shift how we see things. I think the thing is with a practice, like I have a practice every morning I meditate. I do 20 minutes of pranayama every morning, Sukha Purvika, which is inhaling and retaining and then exhaling, inhaling, retaining and exhaling. So that's got to count. And um, 20 minutes of that, and then I have half an hour of meditation. Sometimes I have chanting with that afterwards. It depends. So you don't have to have a practice like that. You can have 3 minutes of pranayama. Build it up to 5 minutes of pranayama. Make your
yeah.
pranayama just inhale, exhale. And maybe you could inhale 4 and exhale 8. Just double the exhale. That's something to start. And then even if your meditation is 5 minutes, go to the same spot every day and sit there. And if your mind is really busy, chant a mantra. Maybe the mantra could be anything, really. And chant it if your mind is really busy, chant it loudly. When the mind starts to get quiet, you can begin to whisper it or just lip it, whisper and then lip it, and eventually the mantra becomes internal and the mind is more quiet.
Mm,
Also, the mala is very good in the beginning to use because it gives you something to do.
yeah.
And
Awesome.
yeah, it's like, the mind is like a puppy or a child left on their own, unwatched,
Yeah, that's no good, because I know from my puppy Olaf right here, but you might hear the bowl in the background, or him whining, and you leave him alone. You turn your eyes for 2 seconds,
That's
it'll
exactly how
destroy my whole apartment.
okay, that's exactly how the mind is.
Yeah,
Mind is exactly like that. And so when you begin to watch the mind goes, oh, she's watching, and it behaves a little bit better.
yeah,
And then
no,
if
yeah,
that's the way it is. So that, I mean, I think the practices should just be consistent. And if you're earnest about if you really want something, if you know what you want peace of mind, you want to feel energized and refreshed and connected to yourself.
yeah. No, I think that's a great tip. And in terms of yoga, I think a lot of the um, I think yoga gets really misinterpreted, or gets people really focus on the physical practice of the asanas of yoga, but that's only a small part of yoga. And I'd love to ask you, because I know what we're talking about right now, yoga is more of this practice of watching the mind, and the asanas are really this like physical practice of, or this expression of what is happening within your mind. Can we speak a little bit more in terms of yoga in particular, and people that or the audience that is practicing yoga?
Yes. So you're practicing your asana, and you're using your breath as a tool. That's really important, right? You're very conscious of your breath when you practice yoga. Um, I just went blank. What was the question, really?
Yeah, so I mean, what we were just talking about in terms of like watching the mind and this mind as this tool, but in terms of like yoga in particular, I think a lot of people think that okay, let me just practice the physical practice,
Okay,
not
it's not an
realizing,
it's something, because the physical
yeah,
practice will begin to clean the body.
yeah,
And you're twisting and you're hitting all the organs, and you're squeezing things and cleaning um, the body. You're stretching, you're releasing energy that's stuck. So it's an important part of the practice. But if you look into the Yoga Sutras and you look at the 8 limbs, it's called Ashtanga,
hmm,
and not to be confused with Ashtanga yoga as taught by Tabi Joyce. But Ashtanga yoga goes back to Patanjali and the Yoga Sutras. So the asanas are just part. Before, they have yamas and niyamas, and those are things that you should do and things you should stay away from. And there's 10 of them altogether. So when you start to look at what those things are, like non-violence or purity or a non-stealing, and like, what does that really mean to non-steal?
hmm,
It doesn't just mean putting candy in your pocket in a store, or not paying for something. It means a lot more, like maybe showing up late and stealing someone's time.
true.
So you have to really look at and what non-stealing means. And Swami Satchidananda did commentary because the
I have
yoga.
that book right there in the other room.
Oh,
I
did
read it before
yeah,
bed. Yeah, I've been
yeah.
reading it the past month.
It's
Again, like rereading it. Yeah.
it's an amazing, because Patanjali was amazing, because the thing is, you could get all these superpowers, right,
Hmm.
and be a demon.
Yeah.
Because in the stories, in the Puranic stories, these demons, they would meditate for hundreds of years on Brahma, and then Brahma would have to give them a boon. And they would always want immortality because they always want to take over and rule the world and get rid of the shining ones. Um, but Patanjali said, you practice these yamas and niyamas first, and then you go into asana, pranayama, um, concentration. You begin to concentrate the mind. Never mind meditation, just to focus the mind. If we could just focus the mind on one thing, they say that I read somewhere recently that the mind is hard to focus for more than 4 seconds. Pretty amazing, right?
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, look at social media now. Like TikTok comes out. I can't even download it because it's so much stimulus. It just makes my head hurt. But like that's proof of our attention span of how quick everything is. Just like kind of, it's
Yeah.
just such a quick platform. It's just like one
Yeah.
second if it doesn't attract to your attention. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So these are the practices, and so you do all these things to create this pure state, this clean state. I want to find the right word. With the mind is clear, the body is clear, and then it's much easier to reach higher levels.
Mhm.
And as you're doing this, you become more intuitive. You're eating a certain way. Ramana Maharshi, one of the things he says is that the best way, and he's yana yoga. So that's really about watching the mind, and inquiry, asking, well, who am I? Who am I? Am I this body? Who am I? Who's asking? All these, okay, questions. So if you got the asanas and you're purifying the body, you're purifying the mind, reaching these places is easier.
Mhm.
This is the
Oh, yeah,
beginning.
true. Yeah.
This is the beginning. Some people have stopped because I mean, there's just yoga all over. And then you look at a lot of people. I haven't been to a lot of different studios, actually. I did Swami Bua, and then I would do my own. I know how to do it, so I would do it here. And then I would go to Shivananda sometimes, and integral yoga. I mean, I did go to a gym for a little while after when I was just getting better from being sick, and there was all different yoga teachers there, so I had a little taste of what it was all. And I did have Iyengar's book in the 70s, and we read it and looked through it, and it was all very interesting. And um, but I haven't really been around, and I know there's so many teachers doing so many different things and putting their own spin on it. And I mean, yoga is for everybody, but it wasn't always for everybody. But now they say yes, yoga is for everybody.
Mhm.
Um, and in a sense, yes, it is. It is. It is. You do what you can, and the mind begins to open. This third eye here, the pineal gland begins to get clean,
Mhm.
and you become intuitive, and that's part of it. That is you're if you're have any, that's part of it. That's, they call them powers or cities or something, and you made some reference to that, but you don't do it for that, really.
Mhm.
You do it to know who you are, to be with the one that's in everyone, that's ongoing. I mean, there's this light that we is in all of us that is unaffected by all our nonsense.
Yeah.
And it took this body, and it will leave when the body is finished, the vehicle is broken and done. And to be in contact with that, to realize that's who I am, and not get caught, to bring the awareness inward instead of being pulled out all the time by our senses, because that's
Mhm.
what the senses do. It just pulls us into the world constantly.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. In terms of the audience and those who are listening to this conversation right now, you mentioned self inquiry, but I guess we could start with that. But what other call to actions that you can recommend that you may use in your own practice or your students' practice that everybody can incorporate today, like right after listening to this conversation?
Self-acceptance,
Mhm.
accepting where you're at. As soon as you do that, it will change.
Mhm.
If you resist something, it persists. So I think that's a very big part of anyone's practice, is accepting exactly where they are at that moment. Um, I'm not sure if that's what you were looking for in terms of call to action. I'm not even sure what that means,
Yeah.
but
So, in terms of call to action, what I really mean is like actionable steps that somebody can incorporate into their practice. So, in terms of self inquiry, I know something that works for myself and sometimes others is to keep a journal and write.
oh yes, those
Um,
kinds of
to
things.
have
Right.
have an intention before every time you step on your yoga mat,
Well,
things like
yes,
that.
of course. I mean, yes. To be clear about what your intent is. Yes, absolutely. Um, I mean, I have this intention always to be an instrument. It's always to be an instrument of the divine and be connected to the divine. That's my intention. It's pretty much so I don't even think about it. And I know people who write all the time. They'll write at night. They'll write their whole day, um, to see what worked and what didn't work. I'm not. I mean, I did do that for years. I did write,
Yeah.
and I remember there was one time I was having a Pluto transit, and you just touch everything you own, and I just threw out like books and books of writing. It was like I didn't want to look at it. But yes, journaling is a great thing, and it helps. And we did this thing once where you invite the angels into your house, and so it was something that went around, and it was really profound because at some point you do this writing that just happens. What do they call that again?
Journaling.
It's like psychic. It's like it just comes through you. You're not even, you don't think about it. You
Okay.
just write.
Yeah. Free, like some type of free writing. Is that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. And that is an amazing thing. If you can get to that space to let yourself go and let that happen,
Yeah. No, I
that
think that's a
that's
great.
amazing. Because when you look at it later, you go, "Oh my God, I wrote that."
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And another question, our mutual friend Mateo Valdivieso, who's over in Germany right now, uh, studying in grad school, I asked him like, "Do you have any questions?" Like, I'm going to be speaking with Reverend Lakshmi again, and he was like super excited. And he's just like, he just had one question, and that question was, "What particularly in your practice, or what particularly helps keep you centered?" Um, and more present in your day-to-day life? Is it your diet? Is it your practice? Is it something just completely
I think
that I'm
all
not
of it.
thinking of? All of it?
I think, yes, it's all of it. I mean, my diet is, pretty, at this stage right now, it's pretty narrow. It's like gluten-free vegan and it's not that I think you have to be on that, but things that are easy to digest
Mm-hmm.
work better. As you get older, the digestion doesn't work as well as it did once. So you want things that are easy to digest anyway, because you don't want all that energy being robbed and things that aren't digested around and pollute you. So diet's really important.
Yeah.
Um, um, Watching the mind, I mean, being aware of what's going on. So if something's bothering me and it's some thought, I'm pretty much going to question myself about it and I'm aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to watch it. I mean, it's not that maybe I'm not going to be able to make it go away that quickly, but at least I'm watching it and I'm aware of it so that I'm not identified with it. And I don't think I'm that,
Yeah.
like that situation. You know what I mean? Um, so that's a really important thing. So there isn't, I don't know if there's one thing. Um, it's a practice. It's pranayama. It's being around people who are positive as well.
Yeah.
Who you put yourself next to is very important. I mean, that's not to say, I mean, I'm around a lot of people that need to talk and maybe they're going through a really hard time and they're in a tough place in their life. And that doesn't mean that I stay away from those people. Not at all. Not at all. But I have a number of people in my life that I could talk to or ask questions, especially if I'm unsure about something. Um, or if I behave in a certain way, because I'm always trying to correct my behavior. There are swamis in Yogaville and swamis here that I could say, what do you think? How would you have done that? I would like to learn how to better do this. The art of communication, or you know, not just because I could be a certain way, and I'm always trying to change for the better, which would probably mean being more conscious of other people and their feelings, perhaps. Um, so that's really important, who you put yourself around.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think our energy is contagious in this collective energy. And what we kind of mentioned on the show is like our actions control our thoughts and our thoughts control our actions. So make them good ones.
Yes.
And everyone listening right now, excuse my puppy Olaf. I mean, everybody knows who I mean, unless it's the first time calling your show, that we got Olaf and Buddha, my kitten. But he's in his crate right now because we're training
Oh,
him,
right, right, right.
and so you could hear him in the background. So everybody listening, I apologize for that. But this is what we got to do in quarantine right now in a small 1-bedroom apartment. Outside New York City. But yeah, no, I think this is great. And I'm really happy that we were able to kind of share this conversation in terms of like, what are you working on next? Like, what are you working on right now? I know there's a little bit of an uncertain future with the cases of the coronavirus kind of coming back and being in New York City. But I guess, what are you working on in Integral Yoga, and where can people find you?
Everything's still so virtual. And for a while, for months, we worked on getting that gong sound to to sound good virtually. Um, so now we're just working on different virtual programs that could be helpful for people. Because who knows what's going to be. I'm looking forward to being in a room full of people again, teaching, playing the gong. And we
Yeah.
do have some people who come now. We have a big room, so we can have some people in the room for gong baths, which is nice. Um, I got clubs and mace. They call it a gada. Let's say or most of the deities hold one, especially Hanuman has the gada. So I started working with that in the summer. Um, so that's been fun and interesting. It's not just strength; it's also flexibility, agility. So that's something I'm working on.
What exactly is that? I haven't heard of that.
I'll show you. This is the these are the can you see them?
Yeah, I can see them. And everyone just listening, because this is just really more of an audio. This is what you're holding up almost looks like two
Yeah,
bowling pins,
right.
like that you could use for like exercise or something. Actually, I think I've seen these in a
Right.
video
You've
before.
seen these because the wrestlers in India use this. So these are the and they you use them in all different ways. And then the mace is this.
Oh wow, super cool. Yeah, no, I have seen that. It's a really cool and unique way to kind of get like a functional workout in
Yeah.
and add kind of like this accessory to your practice. That's super cool that you're practicing that.
So I'm not, I mean, this is 7 pounds only, and I do have some injuries, so I'm careful, and I'm not that careful. I should be
Yeah.
more careful.
No, I mean, this is really cool, and everybody could find you at Integral Yoga Institute, specifically the New York City Institute and location, which definitely check out. You guys figured out like you were just mentioning, you guys are doing, you figured out the sound with doing the gong baths virtually, and you're doing tons of classes. You also have an Instagram account, which I'll link to in the show notes below, which everyone could check out. And yeah, no,
We
Reverend.
do yin yoga and restorative yoga with bowls, which is really beautiful. I mean, that works really well over Zoom. The gong baths we do over YouTube Live because you need more, the sound has to be, doesn't, it's very hard to get it good on Zoom.
Yeah,
But the bowls really, we mic everything up, and the bowls sound great. And there's a teacher teaching yin, or different teacher teaching restorative, and I play the bowls, and that's a wonderful offering, especially for now.
yeah. Yeah, I love the sound healing. I think it's super powerful. I think it's a lot more accessible than meditation for some
Yeah.
in terms of ease to kind of get into that state. And yeah, no, Reverend Lakshmi, I really appreciate this conversation. And
It was a lot of fun. It
yeah,
was a lot of fun.
yeah, and your time, and everybody listening right now. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as well. And if you liked it, and you definitely check out more episodes, check out the interactive practice following this episode. So every episode interview is matched with an interactive practice. And you hear Olaf in the background again. But if you like this conversation and this show, Life as a Secret Yogi, definitely consider leaving a written review and rating wherever you're listening to right now, especially on Apple Podcasts. And also check out our website, www.secretyogisociety.com, which we have a picture of Olaf there too. And we're also on Instagram at secret_yogi, all in the show notes below. And I really appreciate your time for everybody listening. And I'm super grateful for your time as well, Reverend Lakshmi. And I will definitely be back to Integral Yoga Institute in New York City once things kind of calm down, but I'll make sure to check out some of your online offerings as well.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful. You're a beautiful spirit. Thank you.
Thank you.
you.